Good morning, Quirk. What is up, Web3 NFT family? It's your man Jordan Reigns at 50 Shades of Drunk. If you are on Twitter, back with another episode of the Quirky Cast, a Web3 podcast, going over all the NFT projects, the news, the thoughts, the processes. A lot of it, though, is going to be focused on the main project and community I'm involved in, which is the Quirkies. But again, it'll be, the narrative and lifestyle of the Web3 person from someone who is a little quirky. So stick around. We're going to talk about some updates around the community, our community, and the broader Web3 community. It should be a fun episode.
In a wormhole, probably about to burn. In a white tunnel, are you ever gonna learn? See a land, probably gonna merge. Gonna be dead laying in the dirt. Funny how you smart, but you still a nerd. Play your part, girl gon' turn. Act hard, girl gon' learn.
All right, thank you for joining us. If it's your first time with us, make sure you subscribe to the show. Leave us a rating and a review. That would be awesome. We're going to be talking all things Web3, but mostly things about Quirkies. And today's episode is going to focus specifically on the Quirklings, which is going to be the first real extension piece of the Quirkies project. So I'm just going to go ahead and we'll talk about that in a minute. I actually want to talk about some broader market things and some news that's going on. First and foremost, we did have our merch drop. So if you are a Quirkies holder, you were able to get the official first merch drop this last week. That's actually closed at the time of this recording. So hopefully you were able to get that. If not, apparently it's going to be like this release is going to be kind of limited edition. So if you were in, good. If you weren't, you'll get the next one. So that happened. That's cool. That was one of the first real pieces of utility we've kind of gotten with our Quirkies so far, getting that first piece of brand merchandise out there, getting it in the streets, letting people know about the Quirkies brand overall as they dive into Web3 and how that fuses with the broader world around us. Other things that have happened recently, we did get the official news about the Quirkies event. Not the official news, but the date, which was going to be June 22nd in New York City at NFT NYC. It's going to be a big party. It's going to be a family-friendly affair, but it's going to be Quirkies and Quirky friends. There's going to be, food, drinks, good times to be had. There's going to be live music. Apparently, it's going to be a pretty big deal. Centrobos, the founder of the Quirkies, has a lot of good things in line for us. So if you're able to go. Still not 100% sure if myself I will be able to make it there or not. We still have a couple of weeks, maybe like 2 weeks to figure it out. Myself and my wife. Hopefully we'll be there. If not, if you are there, have a good time. For us, we'll be with you in spirit. Okay, so let's talk about the broader market overall. First and foremost, the NFT and Ethereum and crypto and everything, the entire world economy is down. Okay. That's just like what it is. I'm not here to necessarily talk about the financials of it. I'm here to talk about the organizations, the people, the products, the things that are happening in our space. The price is the price, whatever somebody's willing to pay for is what somebody's willing to pay for. And that changes day to day. That doesn't mean the market's dead or whatever. I mean, Bitcoin at this point, the first blockchain technology really put out there. What is it? 13 years old. It's been around a long time. Ethereum's been around a long time. These things aren't dead. They're not dying. They're not going anywhere. This is just going to be part of any normal market cycle. Things go up, things go down. We build on them, we create on them, we iterate them, etc., etc., etc. So the value of those things, is kind of moot in my mind, especially if you're a long-term investor in this space, which a lot of people do get into the NFT space. They say they want to be long-term investors. So when you zoom out and look at the way things are trending and going, it's really only becoming more commonplace. So that's my total comment on the broader market. So if you're going to hear news and stuff, I'm going to say to you that's going to sound like, maybe bearish or whatever. And a lot of the people in the market seem to be pontificating about it. But we did have the news this week that Instagram is going to start testing NFTs on their platform. Not everybody's going to have access to it at first. They're going to start small and they're going to learn from the community. So we're not sure how that's going to be. If that's going to be like a marketplace integration, I'm not really sure if that's going to be just the way they've done it with Twitter, where your profile picture takes on a different shape or gets some sort of coloration or some sort of way of distinguishing that that is an NFT or that you are an NFT owner. But it's coming. Instagram is an extension of Facebook, and those are the two biggest platforms of Web 2. So, Web 3 NFT integration, putting its hand backwards and offering, a helping hand to people from Web 2, saying, here's how you do it, integrate with your platform. It builds a bridge to what we are building with Web 3, which is going to be the new platforms where you're not going to be back end rewriting this stuff in. It's going to be naturally part of it. So that's a bullish thing, in my opinion. We know that everybody's worried about price of everything, So Bored Ape Yacht Club, the big news, yesterday or today, this morning, whatever, their price fell below 100 ETH after, this time a week and a half ago. 10 as little as 10 days ago, they were 160 ETH. Was that a bull market? It didn't feel like a bull market for a lot of people in the NFT space, but it was for them. But they're down to 100 Ethereum floor. Big whoop. That's still 100 Ethereum. That's a lot more money than a lot of people have. A lot of people minted, bought in early, diamond handed. They've been given tons of airdrops. They've gotten all kinds of stuff. And now your exit price is still a massive, win. So I don't, that's up, down, whatever. I think the Bored Ape Yacht Club owners, holders know what they have. I don't think a lot of them are trying to get out with their exit liquidity, whatever. Doodles, their price ran up, but again, everything in the market's gone down. But they announced that they're going to be doing their free to claim duplicator on May 12th. That'll be dropping. Not a Doodles holder myself, not exactly sure what function it will have, but it's going to be an interesting thing for their holders and their ecosystem. Maybe it's going to create some sort of secondary doodle, some sort of derivative doodle. Maybe it'll give you the ability to, use that doodle in other ways that the original doodle is not. I don't know. Maybe they're also building things within their overall doodle brand and platform. Maybe having your opposite doodle is unlock some sort of next level integration or achievement. We'll have to see about that. VeeFriends, don't really have a lot to say about them. Gary V's project, doing well. Like I said, everything's sort of down. They didn't really announce anything. I know VCon's coming. Let's see, other big news. Yeah, whatever. There's not a whole lot of news, everything happens so quickly. So just be prescient, be on Twitter. You'll hear the best things there. So, all right, before we start talking about Quirklings focused, I want to talk about the whole concept of a secondary drop. A lot of people, there have been secondary drops that have not gone well, and there are a couple of reasons for that. I think it's important to remember with Quirkies what we have with Quirkies. With Quirkies, you have a 5,000K collection of high quality art with a solid leadership team and a vision that is short term and long term. So they have plans for the next month, the next 90 days, the next year, the next 5 years, and they're adaptable. What do I mean by that? Well, if you listen to the way Centrobos, the leader of Quirkies, talks, when he does talk, he never says or commits to anything that he is not committed to, because he knows how quickly the market can go up, can go down, things can change. And he's willing to adapt to survive, and not only survive, thrive in any sort of economy that we're in. So when Quirkies are up, when Quirkies are down, doesn't matter. Quirkies are going up on the overall scale. But we have had some drops in the recent weeks or months that have not worked out very well. But I think it's important to remember that those collections were not 5,000K collections. Those were 10K collections and larger for the most part. And when they dropped a very, very, very large supply on top of that as well. I'm going to pull something up here if you're watching on YouTube, which I'm not really, you can be able to see it. Let's see if you can view this tab. All right, this was put out by NFTstatistics.eth at punk69059. He says, so I'm just going to read it to you if you're not watching along. He's got some charts. So he puts out some good threads. It says, we're seeing a lot of regular trend in 2020 with airdrops. One, the NFT pumps ahead of the drop, and then two, the combined value of the OG plus the drop tanks. See the 4 chart examples. And then he provides 4 chart examples. One with Dead Fellas and Dead Friends 2. They went up, had a big spike right before they dropped the Dead Fellas 2. They came out, and then they had to sell off, and they went down. The next collection was V Friends and V Friends 2 series. Similar situation at that chart. World of Women Galaxy, similar with that chart. And Alien Friends Revolution, similar things with that chart. With all of those, again, I think it's important to remember those were all 10K collections or larger, okay? In the context of what Quirkies is. So let's go ahead to the second tweet of this. So his quick thoughts on why this happened. My quick thoughts. There must be guidance on why the OG token is still number one. Okay, so maybe that wasn't iterated in those projects. I'm not personally involved in the first or second collection of any of those projects, so I don't know. But that's potentially could have been it. Two, he says the team needs more catalyst planned to keep holders holding after the drop. That's very key, I think. If there's none, the drop will fall flat and holders will lose faith. Something I think that we need to highlight about Quirkies is catalyst, planned catalyst. Sin is very good at keeping momentum going. Um, you know, since Quirkies has started, this is the first real utility we've been able to get was our merch drop, which is a very common first piece of utility projects will get. We went from a 0.05 floor mint price to 2.5 ETH before we got our first real piece of utility. A lot of products we'll put out after, even have ready before. What does that mean? That means that he was able to, and we were able to as a community and as a project, based on all the auxiliary factors alone. Okay, not hype either, because hype goes away much faster than the 2.5 to 3 months now that Quirkies has existed. 3 months now that Quirkies has existed. Hype goes away a lot faster than this. This isn't hype. We had our first deliverable go through. We were able to make our purchase on our merch. But we've been able to catalyst and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow with our primary 5,000 collection. So that's just my comment on Quirky. So here's his next point. Number 3 says it's becoming a red flag when teams raise money off of drops. There's too many projects and not enough ETH to drain the community with ETH with drops. One thing, I'll tell you about why Quirklings is probably going to work in relative to that in a moment. Azuki clones raised no money off their drops. The result was much better. More royalties over time. Makes sense. All right, so here's where we are going to talk about why Quirklings are going to work, okay, and why Quirklings just makes sense. He says, and his fourth point is reasons to drop. A, your NFT is expensive and you want more advocates who love your brand and aspire for the top NFT. And B, your drop is unique from the OG and expands your world/narrative. All right. That is the point I want you to bear in mind as we go into my next bit. Okay. I'm actually going to pull this up. Okay. I'm going to pull this back to full screen if you are watching on YouTube. So, Quirklings. Quirklings are friends of Quirkies. I'm just going to read you to the website, okay? Quirkies.io/Quirklings. What are Quirklings? Quirkies have prospered throughout Quirksville. They living in peace for thousands of years. Suddenly, an evil force flooded Quirky's homeland, leaving them no choice but to send a brave few into the metaverse in search of their long-lost allies, the Quirklings. Narrative building. We are going in search of the Quirklings. They will need to work together, Quirky and Quirklings, if they have any chance of defeating the evil that has begun to consume Quirksville. So some sort of evil has begun to infiltrate Quirksville, and Quirkies have been able to transcend time and space and go back and find their original friends from somewhere in the galaxy, somewhere in the universe known as the Quirklings. And these Quirklings are going to come and they're going to help defeat whatever evil this is. This is narrative building. This isn't a secondary collection that looks like the first collection. That's just a collection to have more of a collection. These are integral pieces to a story, to a world building, narrative based story where we have protagonist, antagonist, we have allies, okay, and within that we have various points in history and time already outlined within the comic that they've been releasing for this first series. Okay, this is this is a dream come true if you can take a step back and just realize what's going to win and what always wins. And what always wins is a story. We're building a brand, a narrative, an entertainment company, a fashion wear world, a platform, whatever you want to call it, with Quirkies, with what Quirkies are. Um, and any story needs to have a reason to continue. It can't just be, here are these people, here are these creatures, here are these things. There has to be a why. What do they do? Where do they begin? Where do they end? That's where Quirklings come in. There is an evil infecting Quirksville, and we now have a second collection coming in that's going to allow people to come into our community, our ecosystem, our brand, and start being a part of this larger story that's being told, that's running parallel to Web3 metaverse development. We're seeing new brands, new companies, new IP stories being launched. And when I say stories, what do I mean by that? You, as the owner of your Quirky, have the right to use the IP for anything you want. I have two of my Quirkies right here. If you're watching on the YouTube, these are my guys. I can do anything I want with them. I can make them their own YouTube channels. I can make them their own TikToks. I can use parts of their overall some of their art, like the donuts here, the donut, to brand and package and create things. I'm able to create a story maybe where one of my Quirkies, he was hungry and he grabbed his buddy's donuts, and maybe his donuts grow back. We can create anything we want with these little creatures called Quirkies. Stories are a way to teach and to express ourselves and emote things. And as the owner of your Quirky, and in a world where you're allowed to brand yourself, there's so much upside to what we can create on an individual level. And on a grand level, that's what's happening here. We're being given now not just the opportunity to use our Quirkies, but we're being given a world and a narrative, a larger narrative, in which we can co-create, make smaller stories. Think about it like Harry Potter, okay? Most of the stories about Harry, Hermione, and Ron, okay? But the broader world is Rowling's world, Hogwarts. It's platform 9 3/4. It's these places that have been created by her. And when you imagine these places, if you ever were a kid, dreaming what it would be like to be there, you see the things around you, and then you're able to move the pieces yourself and have your own little story. What would it be like to be with, Harry and the homies, down in Hogsmeade? You might wonder about that. You might look around and see that. Now you're given a chance to co-create in this world that Sin and Finch are creating with our Quirkies, the story that they're creating for us. We're allowed to kind of co-create in that world. Storytelling is always what's going to win. And so I really think that the main thing, and again, I'm going to go back to this post that I just had up on the screen a minute ago, that this is a respected person in the NFT and, Web3 community. Reasons to drop. One, your NFT is expensive. We ran up to 2.5 ETH, and a lot of people got priced out. That's just the facts about Quirkies. And a lot of people won in. A lot of people from smaller communities that were adjacent to Quirkies dropped around the same time as Quirkies. Those people who went in on those properties and on those projects instead of Quirkies, they weren't able to flip into Quirkies now, because those projects are, I don't want to say dead, but those projects just have not been able to move the way we have. And two, your drop is unique from the OG and expands the world and your narrative. Go listen to the space that Sin had on the Quirkies profile on Twitter. It's an hour and a half long. Sin goes over the whole narrative of Quirklings, okay? And kind of talks you through it. I'm kind of giving you my thoughts about it. I'm going to give you some quick facts. These are from the website. Mint date is going to be June 3rd, and the mint price has not been determined. He said he wants to see what the overall market is like. I think that's smart. Wait till the market gets here. The way you'll be able to mint is you will have to have a quirky in your wallet at the time of the mint. To get it, there's not going to be a snapshot. So he's going to reward people who have them in their wallets. It's going to be a 10,000 collection, the Quirkling. So all of the people who have a Quirky are going to be able to get one. And then there's going to be a whitelist, 5,000, I believe. 4,000 will be given to adjacent or other projects that are helped Quirkies along early days. I think one of those properties will at least be Alien Friends. I think another one I saw was Tasty Bones. Keep an eye out in some of your projects that you're still in. Check out for whitelist spots, see if you were able to get in on the Quirklings, and then 1,000 will be reserved for the public. These are going to sell out instantly. I don't know what the price will be. I think that people focus too much on the price and don't realize, again, what's being built here, the opportunity that is here on a long enough timeline. I don't see how Quirkies don't succeed, especially when you see larger properties kind of struggling with their story. They have the pieces in place, they've got the big prices in place, but their story isn't obvious. It needs to be explained, and it's not digestible. Um, and if Web3 is going to be mainstream, it's going to have to be to go out to the masses. It's going to have to be something that's understood, easily graspable. So, with Quirkies, you're allowed. We're building a brand. We're building a narrative. What more do you need? And it's something that's accessible for all ages, all shapes, all sizes. So I think we check the boxes that you want to check for a drop that's going to be successful. Um, that's just my opinion. Maybe if you think something different, I would love to hear your comments back. But I just think it's important at this moment in the market. Everybody's scared. A lot of people are scared and they're worried about their money and all that. Just in my opinion, for me, with my podcast, this show, just build, build around your Quirky, build around your IP, be creative, harvest the value that you saw originally when you bought in, at 0.5, when you bought in at 0.25, when you bought in at 1.5, whatever. And, help add value to the brand and trust the people in charge. And we have a little over a month before this drop happens. A lot can change. We know that in the NFT market. We know that in Web3. We know that in the world. Things can move quickly. So got a lot to look forward to. I don't have a lot else to say. I know I keep teasing this great episode that's coming, and it's just timing, working out, getting this guest on. It's going to be a really, really fun show. And we'll talk a little bit more about Quirklings on that show as well. But like I said, I'm going to leave the link in the description of this to the space that was held. Go listen to that if you missed it. You're going to get a lot more in-depth information than I gave you here. But I just wanted to give you some of my thoughts and comments on the overall drop and over the overall kind of spaces we are right now. It's Monday, 5/9/2022. There's a lot of room and a lot of space to grow in the NFT space. There's a lot of cool things happening. NFTs, what they are now, you made pictures and whatnot. A lot of that's going to be different soon. The blockchain doesn't lie. The verification potential, the real life application is potential is there. So just don't, just because things are down doesn't mean things are not valuable. Use this time to study, use this time to learn. If you have other resources that you like, please let me know. Leave me a comment or throw me something on Twitter at 50 Shades of Drunk. I'm going to get out of here. Hopefully I'll be back in a couple of days with the really, really fun show I keep teasing. I promise it's going to be worth your time. All right. Quirk. Good morning. Till next time.
In a wormhole, probably about to burn. In a white tunnel, are you ever gonna learn? See a land, probably gonna merge. Gonna be dead laying in the dirt. Funny how you smart, but you still a nerd. Play your part.